Hello, everyone from the UBI4ME team, and here we have Marcel,
Hiya.
and you have myself, Daniela. Isn't it a great week for UBI, for Universal Basic Income? We are sandwiched in between Thanksgiving in the US of A and a lot of other countries who are adopting a similar day to give thanks. For example, in some Central European countries who today, of all days, have Giving Tuesday. In addition to that, as always, we have great news about universal basic income. And from our own group, would like to highlight that we now have our Mastodon account where we put out new research, information, links to other organizations, and also our own thoughts on universal basic income, what it means to us, what it could mean to you, and how other people see it.
Do you want to give them the address?
I
Mastodon
will
address?
put the address in as a link into an article on our website as well as into the YouTube and Patreon page as well. It is mastodon.social and the handle is UBI for me. Or do you want to have a shorter way of saying it?
No, it's UBI for me at um, it's mastodon.world, though, not mastodon.social.
Oh yes, sorry, apologies.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's UBI for me at mastodon.world.
hmm, yes. Would you like to start on any of the information, news articles, research that has come out recently?
I don't know the details, but I think the most interesting thing is the UBI that's been set up for Palestine. I don't know if you've read into it and if you know any more details, but as far as I know, that they're basically trying to set up a UBI as a relief mechanism for the Palestinians in Gaza.
Yes, the latest I have heard, and that's only a few days ago, is that they call it an emergency basic income.
Mhm.
As you said, it's supposed to be a relief effort in the region. I only heard that Guy Standing, I think is his name, who wrote the paper, he was asked to write a paper on what this could look like, the benefits of it, some of the cost, how could it be covered, which is always an important one. And that paper was delivered and presented. I have not yet heard that it actually was implemented. I hope it is. I hope it's moving forward, um, given that not such a long time ago, oil was found off the coast of Palestine as well. And every time I hear about a small country finding oil, I think, oh, those poor people over there. Because generally, if oil is found, war follows. So my hope is that, as Guy Standing from the paper suggests, to use some of that planned and upcoming income from the oil reserves that were found, use that to cover the UBI. Um, I think that's a great idea. I hope it's going to work out. I do wholeheartedly hope that this EBI, in this case, the emergency basic income, is going to go ahead. I also hope that it will go to every person or every adult,
Mhm.
rather than only the head of the household or the male head of the household.
Mhm.
Um, because there have been some projects in the past which I would have to dig up, but there have been projects in the past that looked at the difference and the difference in benefit to the wider society if you give every single person a UBI, EBI, or whether you only give it to the male head of the household. I would never get it. Basically, I would never receive a UBI because I'm not that. I'm just a human being, and that's that. So that's why personally I hope that every single person or every single adult receives it, um, for that reason. Irrespective of my own personal views, I hope the project is going ahead. I hope it will get funded. I hope it's going to be in the news as a success story in a few years to come.
Exactly. And who knows? Palestine could be the first country to implement a UBI if it's successful and they decide to continue it.
Yes, yes, and I'm hoping so. I hope it is a success story. I mean, looking at the number of how many people have died, not only um, since the violence started, but going back decades and decades.
Mm.
Um, this part of the world hasn't seen any stretch of peace times that lasted for a few years in a long time. And that's why I'm hoping that an EBI would be a good step in that direction. Um, am I sure it's going to happen? That there will be peace or that an EBI is going to happen? I'm hoping so. I really, really do hope. I do think humans or humanity as a whole have the capacity and capability to look out for one another and to do the right thing. Having said that, it doesn't always happen. So I do hope it will happen this time round. I do hope people's lives will be saved. I do hope people can live with dignity and self respect um, and go stronger into the future. And that again is what UBI should be all about. It should be about people having a dignified life, people being able to live as human beings, not because they were born to rich parents or because they were born with the right skin color in the right country, but simply because they're here, that there's nothing we can do about them right now. So we may as well make the best out of the situation for everyone, provide every single person with an unconditional, regular income that covers at least the basics so everyone has a dignified life as a starting point. What to do with it, that's up to them. That should be up to them. We should not ever tell anyone whatsoever how to live their lives, what to do with the spare time, what to do with the money or anything. They should be able to decide. Um, but everyone should have the basics covered.
Exactly. Did you have anything else in the news that you came across?
I always read up on the news in terms of what's going on, what's happening around the world. One of the big things that I've highlighted the other day was the seventh UBI for All UBI raffle.
Yes.
Now, for those not familiar with it, UBI for All, which is a not affiliated group, so they are completely separate. They just happen to have a similar name to ours. They have been established for quite a few years. Started at a similar time as we did. Um, they have they have a really great team that managed to raise funds, and every time they reach 9,600, 9,800 euros or US dollars, they then raffle off 1 year worth of basic income to a lucky winner. Last time round, there were a little bit more than 11,000 people taking part, which I think shows already the success story that UBI4All.org is. The payments will be split out over 12 months. Since last time round, there was a mention that in some countries where 800 euros or dollars would be way too much to cover basic needs, they were thinking of splitting it out over a longer duration. So if your basics would be generally covered with, as an example now, 200 US dollars, then okay, instead of getting the 800 per month for 12 months, you then get 200 per month for 48 months. I think that's fair. I think they have a good thing going. Do head over to their website, have a look at them. I think it's a great, fantastic initiative to show it works. Pe-
Exactly.
yeah, people are paying into the system themselves, so you can become a donor or sponsor. I believe they call them beavers, for a reason that I'm not familiar with, but why not beaver away at the problem
Yeah.
and make it better for everyone? Again, great initiative out there. I think it's amazing how creative people, or how successful a project out of a small group of creative people can be.
Yeah.
Um, Other than that, I am reading myself through a longish paper on universal basic income related to the labor conditions and labor market forces. It was in part written by a labor union. It is hundreds of pages long, so that's why I have not yet mentioned it, because I'm trying my best not to put news out there that I haven't read myself beforehand. It's really, really hard to not get over enthusiastic and just put information out that I can't, that I haven't looked at myself. So I'm holding off on that until I'm through it all, and that should hopefully happen before the end of the year.
It's also very important to actually read the research that's been done,
Mhm.
and to get into the details, because quite often the headlines and even the titles of the paper don't quite capture the importance of what's been captured and what's been researched, what's been found, and conclusions drawn.
Mhm.
Just my own experience from reading papers, not just UBI papers, but any papers. Read the article yourself and find out what's really going on. So yes, take the time, read it, and I look forward to your summary.
Yes, and reading is very important, especially as you just said. The look at the references, look at where the information comes from.
Yeah,
I I feel as if, and it may just be my impression, over the last few weeks and months, kind of starting late summertime, that there may have been more articles showing that UBI is a really, really bad thing because people get lazy. And if you follow the links, if you follow the research, what comes out is that yes, people don't work 15, 16, 17, 18 hours a day because they go home to spend time with their children. They pick them up from school, they help them with the homework. So there's a lot of emphasis on some people may change jobs and work a little less. But I mean, let's be honest, those people possibly deserve a UBI more than anyone, if you're
exactly.
working really long hours because you have to. Another thing people tend to do, if you read the underlying research, is they get lazy and go to university. So rather than taking low paid jobs for the rest of their lives, some people actually save up a little and then go to university and make something of themselves. Another group were people who reduce the working hours, sometimes even go to part time work, the usual 20, 30 hours of work, so that they can set up their own company and try and again make something of themselves. And as soon as their own business works out, they quite often quit their jobs completely, focus fully on their own company, and then hire other people because now they need other people to help them achieve even more success. So I have been a little bit disheartened by reading negative headlines. And when you go into the weeds and into the actual research, it turns out that people actually do something with their lives. People go forth and prosper,
Yeah,
to use an old reference. But people want to do things. Sometimes people need a rest. Sometimes people have been working too hard for too long. And anyone listening out there who knows what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Um, yeah.
yeah. There was another example where the and this is all about the overall benefits for UBI, not
Mm.
just the quantitative benefits and worrying about people working fewer hours. And one of them was that there's exceptional health benefits
Mhm.
because people don't feel obliged to go to work when they're sick.
Yes.
They choose to stay at home and get better. They choose to stay at home and not spread the virus or whatever they have to their work colleagues who then also get sick and are unable to perform. So the health benefits just in the workplace, never mind the um, stress and everything else gets relieved with UBI, just improving workplace health and therefore workplace performance increases because people
Mm.
work fewer hours. So when you focus on people will work fewer hours, it's very important to understand why, what those hours are, what people are doing with those hours instead. And it's not just about, oh yes, people work fewer hours.
Mm. And again, I would like to get back to what I said earlier on. Who am I to tell people what to do with the money, and who am I to tell people what to do with the time? If they want
Exactly.
leisure time to go off and create another masterpiece like the Sistine Chapel, let them. Literally, let them do whatever they want to recuperate so they can be the best they can be during the day job. Or, as the research shows, most people will try and turn what they love into what we nowadays call a job. It's sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, and I just want to make sure people understand. I'll give you a signal similar to this. So if you don't want to listen to it, just fast forward until you see it again. In my opinion, and I have seen research backing that up, I don't have it at hand though. In my opinion, the work life we know at this point in time, and the work life myth that one has to work a minimum of 8 hours a day, a minimum of 5 days a week, just to be able to earn enough for food and clothing and shelter, is a relatively new one. Now, it's older than I am, I give you that, but it's not very old. Say 150, 200 years ago, most people would still have lived on a farm somewhere and lived of agriculture or hunting or similar pursuits. So, yes, cities have existed and have existed for a very long time, but overall, the general population did not have a standard 9 to 5 job. The 9 to 5 myth is a relatively new one, which after the Second World War just was kicked up a notch, and this is what we live with. Most people I speak with, they suggest that, oh, it's always been this way. And it's like, no, it hasn't. It literally hasn't. Humans have not been on this planet since time began. It just isn't the truth. There's been evolution, and when I mention evolution, I also want to point out that humans tend to get better and evolve to become better, both in terms of being adapted to their surroundings, but most importantly, in how smart they are. And when I say how smart they are, what that to me really means is how well can they cope with the challenges being thrown at them. And again, the how do we how do we feed the number of people on the planet in such a way that nobody has to die may have been a challenge at the time when the 9 to 5 started creeping into human life. But we've moved past that. It should be possible that people work less than 40 hours a week and everyone still can feed themselves, clothe themselves, and find shelter in a good enough flat or flat chair, whatever you decide to live in. It should be possible. If you do the maths, it is possible. And for that reason, I call the 9 to 5 a myth because it's a recent phenomenon. It's been drilled, definitely, it's been drilled into my head that this is how it is. But if you look around, most of the famous people we mention, say Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel, Picasso, most of the politicians, pretty much all of the entrepreneurs, um, farmers to this day, all of those people, they don't work 9 to 5. So if everyone you talk about when you gossip, if they don't work 9 to 5, why do you think it should apply to you? Or in my case, why should it apply to me? So again, coming off a tangent.
Can I just add to that?
Yes, of
You know,
course.
there's actually been a positive trend to 9 to 5 and 40 hours a week, because with the industrial age, which is where long working hours first started, and people were forced to work in factories for long hours, 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. The reduction in the number of hours that people worked was a steady reduction over the 19th century and early 20th centuries to get a 2-day weekend, for example, not just Sunday off, but also to reduce the number of working hours to 40. And there was a thought, or at least an idea, or at least an expectation that working hours would continue to reduce, and that by the time we got to the end of the 20th century, people would be working far fewer hours than they were back in the earlier 20th century, and that didn't happen. Most of the progress, and we talk about wage costs that continue to increase all the way until the 70s, the 1970s, and reduced working hours stopped. And for the last 50 years, we've basically been suffering with no wage growth, no reduction in working hours, and all the excess profits have been going to the business owners, the rich, who've been accumulating more and more wealth. They have been getting all the benefits that technology has been providing going forward. And the common working person has had to deal with complete wage stagnation, complete working hour stagnation, and none of the benefits that have come out of technology. And as we go forward with AI, we see that trend continuing, where when somebody's job gets made redundant, instead of that person being able to celebrate because they no longer have to work, there's now a machine or a computer or an AI that's doing their job. No, they have to go and find another job. And that's, sadly, the world we're in. But there was a lot of progress in the 19th, earlier 20th centuries with reducing working hours and the number of days we worked. So, yes, it's a myth. I agree with you. 95, it's not always been like that, but it was a lot worse in the past, from the industrial age. If you go before the industrial age, then we can refer to the numbers and the information that you were providing earlier. But there was a drastic reduction in the quality of life for the average working person during the Industrial Revolution and since then.
Thanks for pointing that. It's also good to see the positives in our lives, yes.
No, working hours can be reduced. Automation can be to the benefit of the people that used to do those jobs, not just the company owners.
And I believe that this is what we should be striving for. As you said, let's get to a place where people celebrate that another piece of work has been automated. Let's celebrate that AI, robots, machines take things over, because it helps. It does already help humanity, and it will continue to help in all sorts of ways that quite often they go unnoticed. For example, the other day I went to the dentist. I'm not liking it, and one of the ways I keep myself entertained is look at the new technology that comes out. I mean, what happened before X-rays, for example? People had a much worse life if a bone broke or if they had a hole in a tooth, for example, things like that. I once had the chance to interview an entrepreneur who had who built a company based on robots to help you replace hip joints, for example. So I've watched hip operations before the robot and after the robot, and 9 hours well spent. It's amazing, and what it means for those people is they can, within a few days, often they can start walking again, slowly but surely, instead of the weeks that it used to take. It's things like those where I think, yes, let's have the automation, because it will help so much. Now we have to be a little bit careful, because the downside would be that, or there is a fear that humans may be enslaved by robots or machinery in some ways.
Too many sci-fi films out there, I think.
Maybe. I used to think that myself in a little way, and yes, it may have been colored by sci-fi and other fears that were around me in my environment. Nowadays, I think, why would machines want to enslave humans? I personally, I'm flawed. Man, I'm flawed. I will not be any use to anyone. or to any robot. What would they want to do with me? That it does not make sense. It really just doesn't. Surely, if there were a general AI that is so much smarter than humans, and I do think that will happen in my lifetime, and if and when it happens, why would they want to talk to humans? I've heard the comparison that it would be similar to a human wanting to talk with a puppy. It's nice for a minute or two,
Exactly.
but yeah, I'm looking forward to more automation and less. I'm looking forward to um, humans standing up, individuals standing up and requesting a UBI for themselves.
Yeah.
That's where our name comes from. I want a UBI for me. And I'm hoping that other people join us in asking and demanding a UBI for them. They deserve it. They should be able to live a dignified life and have the basics. What they make with that, if they make more out of it, or if they just want to look after the children at home, which is a very important task as well, or if they want to use the time and spend a few weeks off work with their newfound love. I'm not the one to tell them. I'm not the one to impose this mental prison on other people. All I want is to have for everyone to have the opportunity to do what they want. Full stop.
Couldn't have said it better.
So coming up to the end of the year,
Mhm.
this is our last UBI community event. We are thinking of having an in-person event in the new year. We may be we may put an impromptu UBI in-person event together. We would be publishing that via our website as well as our Mastodon account. Again, it's mastodon.world and it's UBI for me. We will have that initially in Europe and see where we go from there. If you want to join, get in touch. If you want to join our calls here, please join us. Have a rant if you want, or just enlighten us with information that we haven't come across yet, or just share your own idea of how you would like to continue with UBI. If you want to help us, if you want to join our little community, do so. Get in touch or go to our website, and from there you can find our Patreon page and also a donate button. So, with your help, we would be able to focus more on this project. In an ideal case, send us your millions so we can start lobby politicians so we have UBI on the program. That will be my big wish for 2025, because that is how we got the 40-hour week rather than the 80-hour week. It's because politicians were successfully lobbied. So
Yeah.
join us, help us on our social media to set up events, um, improve our logo possibly, things like that, small things, or support us financially so that we can make a real difference in this world as well.
Sounds good.
Anything else?
Not from my end.
And with that, I hope everyone has a good end to 2024. Focus on the good news, focus on the positive that's out there, and also focus on asking for things that you want in your life. State your positive need. For example, I want UBI for me. State your positive need. Practice it until the end of the year so you're ready for next year. And with that, I say goodbye and Happy New Year.
Bye.